Understanding startup language is one of the first steps to becoming a successful entrepreneur. Just like any industry, the startup world has its own way of talking, filled with unique terms and phrases that may seem confusing at first. But learning this language is not just about sounding smart. It's about being able to communicate effectively with investors, customers, partners, and other entrepreneurs. When you know the right words to use, people take you more seriously. It shows that you understand the business world you're stepping into, and that you're not just someone with an idea, but someone who can actually make it work. Investors in particular expect founders to be fluent in startup terminology. If you don't know what they mean by burn rate, runway, or product market fit, it may seem like you're not prepared. The same applies to customers and potential business partners. If you can't clearly explain how your business fits into the market, people may hesitate to trust you. Many of today's top entrepreneurs became experts at speaking the startup language, and that played a big role in their success. Elon Musk, for example, is known for breaking down complex ideas into simple, compelling explanations that attract investors and customers alike. When he talks about Tesla or SpaceX, he doesn't just use technical jargon. He uses the language of opportunity, innovation, and vision. Similarly, the founders of Y Combinator, one of the most famous startup accelerators, have built their reputation by helping new founders understand how to speak in a way that investors respect. They teach entrepreneurs how to talk about their business in terms of market opportunity, competitive advantage, and long-term growth potential. This ability to speak the startup language has helped thousands of companies secure funding and grow rapidly. To truly master startup communication, it's important to understand some of the key terms used in the industry. One of the most common distinctions entrepreneurs need to know is the difference between a startup and a small business. A small business is typically built to provide steady income for the owner, such as a restaurant, a retail store, or a local service company. It usually grows at a slow, predictable pace and focuses on long-term stability. A startup, on the other hand, is designed to grow fast and disrupt an industry. Startups are often technology-driven and aim to scale quickly, reaching large numbers of customers in a short time. Companies like Uber, Airbnb, and Facebook started as small teams but had massive growth potential from the beginning. Understanding this difference is important because investors typically look for startups that can scale, not just small businesses that will stay local. Another important term in the startup world is MVP, which stands for Minimum Viable Product. This concept helps entrepreneurs avoid spending too much time and money on a perfect product before knowing if people actually want it. An MVP is the simplest version of a product that solves a customer's problem. Instead of building an expensive, feature-packed product, startups launch with the basics and test it with early users. If customers show interest, the product can be improved and expanded. This approach helped companies like Dropbox succeed. Instead of building a complex file-sharing system right away, they started with a simple video demonstration that showed how it would work. When thousands of people signed up, they knew they had a winning idea and then built the actual product. Funding is another major topic in the startup world, and knowing the difference between bootstrapping and venture capital can be crucial for an entrepreneur. Bootstrapping means building a startup with little or no external funding. Founders use their own savings, revenue from early customers, or small personal loans to get started. This approach gives entrepreneurs full control over their company, but it can be slow and risky. On the other hand, venture capital is when investors provide funding in exchange for a share of the company. This allows startups to grow much faster, but also means giving up some ownership and control. Many of the biggest startups today, like Facebook and Airbnb, received venture capital funding early on to scale quickly. Another common distinction in the startup world is B2B versus B2C. B2B stands for business to business, which means a company sells products or services to other businesses. Examples include software companies like Salesforce, which provides tools for businesses to manage customer relationships. B2C, on the other hand, means business to consumer, where a company sells directly to individual customers. Amazon, for example, is a B2C company because it sells products directly to people. Understanding this distinction is important because the way a startup markets and sells its product depends on whether it is targeting businesses or individual consumers. Let us have a look at one example. Airbnb. Airbnb is one of the best examples of how speaking the right startup language can help turn a simple idea into a billion-dollar company. In the beginning, Airbnb's founders struggled to get investors to take them seriously. They had an unusual business idea, letting strangers rent out spare rooms in their homes, but they knew that how they presented their idea would determine whether they got funding or not. Instead of making their pitch complicated, they focused on a clear and simple message, solving a real problem. They described how expensive hotels made it hard for travelers to find affordable places to stay and how homeowners had extra space that was going unused. By explaining their idea in simple terms and framing it as a big market opportunity, they made it easy for investors to understand why their company had potential. One of the most important things Airbnb did in their pitch was using the startup language that investors expect to hear. They explained their market size, showing that millions of people travel every year and would be looking for cheaper alternatives to hotels. They also proved they had product market fit by showing that people were already using their service, even in the early stages. Instead of just talking about their idea, they used real numbers and examples to show demand. Their early presentations included data on how many people had already booked stays through Airbnb, which made their idea more believable. Investors care about scalability, and Airbnb made sure to emphasize how their platform could grow worldwide without the need to own any property themselves. They positioned themselves as a tech company, not just a rental service, which helped them attract venture capital. At first, many investors were skeptical about the idea of people renting out their homes to strangers. But the Airbnb founders understood that convincing people required more than just numbers. It required the right storytelling. They used a simple, engaging narrative to show how their platform benefited both travelers and hosts. Instead of focusing too much on technology, they made their message about human connections, community, and affordability. This made their pitch more relatable and easy to understand. They also showed flexibility in how they spoke about their business. In the early days, they started by calling it Air Bed and Breakfast because they initially rented out air mattresses in their apartment to conference attendees. But as they refined their idea, they changed their messaging to focus on belonging anywhere, which became their global brand identity. Another key moment in Airbnb's pitch journey was when they applied to Y Combinator, a well-known startup accelerator. At first, even the Y Combinator team wasn't convinced that the idea would work. But the Airbnb founders made their case by showing proof of real customers, early revenue, and a growing demand for alternative travel accommodations. This ability to present real-world traction made all the difference. Once they got into Y Combinator, they refined their pitch further, learning to use startup terms like MVP, scalability, and customer acquisition cost to attract investors. They later pitched to well-known venture capitalists, including Sequoia Capital, and successfully raised millions in funding. Airbnb's success story proves that knowing how to talk about your startup can be just as important as the idea itself. The way they framed their business, structured their pitch, and used startup language played a huge role in getting investors to believe in them. They didn't just describe a website for renting rooms. They spoke about a global shift in the way people travel. By mastering startup communication, they turned a simple idea into one of the most successful companies in the world. Now, let's talk about pitching. An elevator pitch is a short and powerful way to explain your startup in the time it takes to ride an elevator, usually around 30 seconds. It's meant to quickly grab attention, spark interest, and make people want to learn more. In the fast-moving world of startups, being able to clearly and confidently explain your business can open many doors. Whether you're talking to an investor, a potential customer, or a business partner, you may only get a few moments to make an impression. A great elevator pitch can lead to funding, partnerships, or valuable connections. Many successful startups, including Airbnb, Dropbox, and Uber, gained early traction because their founders knew how to pitch their ideas in a way that made people listen. A well-crafted elevator pitch is clear, direct, and engaging. It avoids unnecessary details and gets straight to the point. A good example is Airbnb's early pitch. We help travelers find affordable short-term accommodations by connecting them with local hosts who have extra space in their homes. In just one sentence, they explain what they do, who they serve, and why it matters. Another great example is from Dropbox. Imagine having all your important files with you wherever you go without needing to carry a USB drive. This simple pitch makes the problem and solution easy to understand. When pitching a startup, the goal is not to explain everything at once, but to spark curiosity and invite further conversation. The best way to structure an elevator pitch is by focusing on 4 key elements: the problem, the solution, the market, and the ask. First, you need to explain the problem your startup is solving. Every great business starts by addressing a real need or pain point. For example, Uber's pitch could begin with, finding a taxi in a busy city is frustrating, unpredictable, and often expensive. This immediately highlights a common problem that people can relate to. Next, you need to explain your solution. This should be simple and easy to understand. For Uber, the solution could be, we built an app that allows people to book a ride with just a few taps on their phone, making transportation fast, affordable, and reliable. This shows how the startup directly addresses the problem. After explaining the solution, it's important to define the market. Investors and business partners want to know who will use your product and how big the opportunity is. A strong market statement helps people see the potential for growth. For Uber, the market could be described as millions of urban commuters, tourists, and business travelers looking for a better way to get around. This shows that the problem is widespread and that many people could benefit from the solution. Finally, every great pitch ends with an ask. This depends on who you're talking to. If you're speaking to an investor, your ask could be, we're raising $1 million to expand to new cities and grow our user base. If you're talking to a potential customer, your ask could be, download the app today and get your first ride free. A great elevator pitch is not just about the words you use, but also how you say them. Confidence, clarity, and enthusiasm make a big difference. People are more likely to believe in your idea if you show passion and conviction. Practicing your pitch and refining it based on feedback is key. Many successful founders rehearse their pitch until it feels natural and effortless. The best pitches are simple, engaging, and leave the listener wanting to know more. By mastering your elevator pitch, you give yourself a powerful tool to open doors and create opportunities for your startup. 1111111. Pitching a startup is one of the most important skills an entrepreneur needs to master, but many founders make common mistakes that can cost them funding and opportunities. One of the biggest mistakes is making the pitch too long and complicated. Investors hear hundreds of pitches, and they don't have time to sit through a long explanation filled with technical details. A good pitch gets straight to the point, focusing on the problem, the solution, and why the business has potential. Another mistake is not understanding the audience. Some founders use too much industry jargon, assuming investors already know everything about their field. Others fail to show how their startup can make money, which is a critical part of any pitch. Investors want to see that a startup can scale and generate profits, not just that it has a cool idea. Another common mistake is being unprepared for tough questions. Investors will ask about competitors, risks, and long-term plans, and if a founder cannot answer confidently, it can make them seem inexperienced. One of the best examples of a great pitch is Dropbox. Instead of using a long presentation or complex business plan, Dropbox's founders created a simple demo video that explained exactly what their product did in just a few minutes. At the time, cloud storage was a new concept, and instead of overwhelming investors with technical explanations, they showed how easy it was to use. The video demonstrated how a user could drag and drop files, sync them across devices, and access them anywhere. This clear and simple approach immediately caught the attention of investors. The pitch was so effective that Dropbox gained thousands of sign-ups almost overnight, and later secured millions in venture capital funding. The lesson from Dropbox's pitch is that simplicity and clarity win over investors. A great pitch doesn't just explain the product, it shows how it solves a real problem in a way that anyone can understand. Now let us discuss how to talk to investors in an effective way. Investors are not just looking for a great idea. They want to know if your business can grow, make money, and compete in the market. The way you communicate these points can make the difference between getting funding or being ignored. Investors hear hundreds of pitches, so they focus on specific factors that help them decide if a startup is worth their time and money. These factors include market size and growth potential, unit economics and revenue model, and competitive advantage, also known as a moat. When you speak their language and focus on what matters to them, you increase your chances of securing investment. Two of the first things investors look at are market size and growth potential. They want to know if your startup is solving a problem that affects a large number of people or businesses. A small market means limited growth, which is not attractive to investors. The best way to present market size is through data. Founders often use TAM, SAM, and SOM to break this down. TAM means total addressable market, which is the biggest possible market for your product. SAM, or serviceable available market, is the portion of TAM that you can realistically reach. SOM, or serviceable obtainable market, is the segment you can capture in the short term. For example, when Uber started, the TAM was the entire global transportation market, the SAM was urban ride-sharing, and the SOM was their first city, San Francisco. Investors want to see that a market is not only big, but also growing. A shrinking market or one with slow growth is risky because it limits future opportunities. Companies in high-growth industries like artificial intelligence and renewable energy often attract more investment because their markets are expanding rapidly. Another key factor investors focus on is unit economics and the revenue model. Unit economics refers to the financial details of how much it costs to acquire a customer and how much money the company makes from each one. This includes metrics like customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, and profit margins. If acquiring a customer costs more than the revenue they generate, the business is not sustainable. A strong revenue model shows that the company has a clear path to profitability. Some common revenue models include subscriptions, where customers pay a monthly fee, like Netflix or Spotify, and transaction-based models, where a company takes a percentage of each sale, like PayPal or Airbnb. Investors want to see proof that a startup can not only attract customers, but also keep them and make money from them over time. If a startup relies too heavily on discounts or unsustainable pricing to gain users, it raises red flags for investors. Competitive advantage, or moat, is another major factor investors consider. A moat refers to what makes a startup difficult to compete with. If a business is easy to copy, it can be overtaken by competitors, making it a risky investment. There are several types of moats that can make a startup stand out. A strong brand is one example, as customers are more likely to trust and stay loyal, to a well-known company. Network effects are another powerful moat, meaning that as more people use a product, it becomes more valuable, making it hard for competitors to catch up. Social media platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn benefit from network effects because users have an incentive to stay where their friends and professional connections are. Technology and patents can also create a moat by giving a company exclusive rights to a product or process. For example, Tesla's advancements in battery technology helped them build a strong lead in the electric vehicle market. A final type of moat is economies of scale, where a company becomes more efficient as it grows, allowing it to offer lower prices than competitors. Amazon is a great example of this, as its massive logistics network gives it a cost advantage over smaller retailers. When pitching to investors, it's important to clearly communicate these three key areas. Investors want to see that you are solving a big problem in a growing market, that your business model is financially sound, and that you have a competitive edge that makes it hard for others to replicate your success. The best way to impress investors is by backing up your claims with data, customer traction, and a clear plan for scaling the business. By speaking the language of investors and focusing on what matters to them, you increase your chances of securing the funding needed to take your startup to the next level. When talking to investors, one of the most important things a founder must be prepared for is answering tough questions. Investors do not just hand out money based on a good idea. They want to know that the startup has a real chance of success, that the founder understands the business, and that their investment will eventually bring a good return. Some of the most challenging questions investors ask are designed to test how well a founder knows their market, strategy, and long-term vision. Being unprepared or giving vague answers can make an investor lose confidence. On the other hand, a well-structured and confident response can convince them that the startup is worth their time and money. Three of the most critical questions investors ask are why they should invest, how the company plans to acquire customers, and what the exit plan is. One of the first questions investors ask is why they should invest in a particular startup instead of the many others they see. This is where a founder needs to clearly explain what makes their startup special. The answer should focus on three key things: the size of the opportunity, the strength of the product, and the capability of the team. Investors want to put money into businesses that have the potential to grow quickly and capture a large market. A founder must explain how big the market is, how much demand exists, and why their solution is better than what is already available. For example, if a startup is in the electric vehicle market, the founder should highlight the fast-growing demand for sustainable transportation and how their product fills a gap that major competitors have missed. The second part of the answer should focus on what makes the product unique, whether it is an innovative technology, a better user experience, or a more efficient business model. Lastly, investors care about the team. A startup with a strong team that has the skills, experience, and determination to execute the vision is more attractive to investors. A good response to this question should be backed by data, customer traction, or a unique advantage that sets the startup apart from others. Another tough question investors often ask is about the startup's customer acquisition strategy. This is because having a great product is not enough. The company needs a clear plan to attract and retain customers in a cost-effective way. Investors want to see that the founder understands how to grow the business without spending too much money on marketing. A strong answer should explain the key channels the startup will use to acquire customers, such as digital advertising, content marketing, partnerships, or referrals. For example, Airbnb initially grew by using a smart growth hack. They integrated their listings with Craigslist, allowing them to reach millions of users without spending a fortune on ads. Another example is Dropbox, which used a referral program that gave users extra storage for inviting friends, leading to rapid organic growth. Investors also want to hear about the cost of acquiring a customer compared to the revenue that customer will generate over time. If the cost of getting a new customer is too high, the business model may not be sustainable. A founder should be able to explain how they plan to optimize customer acquisition costs, improve conversion rates, and keep customers engaged long-term. One of the final questions that often comes up in investor meetings is about the exit plan. Investors do not invest just for the sake of funding a business. They want to know how and when they will see a return on their investment. An exit plan refers to how the startup will eventually provide a way for investors to get their money back, usually by being acquired by a larger company, going public through an IPO, or generating enough revenue to buy back investor shares. A founder must show that they have thought about possible exit strategies and that their industry has a history of successful exits. For example, many tech startups get acquired by giants like Google, Amazon, or Facebook. Instagram's early investors saw a huge return when Facebook acquired the company for $1 billion. Similarly, startups in the financial technology sector often get acquired by banks or payment companies. If an IPO is the goal, the founder should explain what milestones need to be reached to make that possible. The best way to answer this question is to show that the startup is building real value, whether through strong revenue, a large customer base, or unique technology that other companies will want to acquire in the future. Being able to answer tough investor questions with confidence and clarity is one of the most valuable skills a founder can have. Investors are looking for well-prepared entrepreneurs who can prove that their business is worth investing in. The best responses are backed by data, real customer traction, and a clear plan for growth. Founders who understand their market, have a smart customer acquisition strategy, and can present a realistic exit plan will always have a better chance of securing investment. Investors are not just betting on ideas, they are betting on founders who can execute those ideas and turn them into successful businesses. Instagram is one of the best examples of how a startup can raise funding before even launching its product. In its early days, Instagram was not the massive social media platform it is today. It started as a small app called Bourbon, created by Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger. At first, Bourbon was a location-based app similar to Foursquare, allowing users to check in at places, share plans, and earn rewards. However, the founders quickly realized that users were more interested in sharing photos than using the check-in feature. This insight led them to simplify the app and focus entirely on photo sharing, which became Instagram. Before launching, Systrom managed to raise $500,000 in seed funding from well-known investors, including Andreessen Horowitz and Baseline Ventures. One of the key reasons they secured this funding was their ability to speak the language of investors. They explained their vision in a way that made it clear Instagram had massive potential. They showed that people were already sharing photos on social media, but there was no simple and beautiful way to do it. This made investors believe that Instagram could fill a gap in the market. Another reason investors backed them was the strength of the founding team. Systrom had previously worked at Google, and his experience gave investors confidence that he knew how to build and scale a tech product. By demonstrating a clear market need, a strong product, and a capable team, Instagram was able to secure funding even before officially launching, allowing them to refine their product and grow rapidly once they did. For any entrepreneur looking to raise funding, understanding investor jargon is essential. Investors use specific terms to evaluate startups and discuss financials, and founders who do not understand these terms may struggle to communicate effectively. One of the most important terms is burn rate, which refers to how quickly a startup is spending money. If a company has a burn rate of $50,000 per month, it means that without additional revenue or funding, it will run out of cash in a certain number of months. Closely related to this is runway, which is the amount of time a startup can survive before running out of money based on its current burn rate. If a company has $500,000 in the bank and a burn rate of $50,000 per month, Its runway is 10 months. Investors pay close attention to these numbers because they indicate how well a startup is managing its finances and how soon it will need additional funding. Another key set of terms founders must understand are Series A, Series B, and Series C funding rounds. These refer to different stages of investment. A startup typically begins with seed funding, which is the initial capital raised to develop the product. Once the company gains traction and proves its business model, it moves to Series A funding, which is usually between $2 million and $15 million, and is meant to help the company scale. Series B funding comes later when the company has a growing user base and needs more capital to expand. Series C funding is for mature startups that are looking to enter new markets, acquire other businesses, or prepare for an IPO. Understanding these funding stages is important because it helps founders know what investors expect at each stage. Two other important investor terms are term sheet and cap table. A term sheet is a document that outlines the basic terms of an investment deal before a formal agreement is signed. It includes details such as the valuation of the company, how much equity the investor will receive, and any special rights the investor may have. Founders must carefully review term sheets because they determine how much control and ownership they keep in their company. A cap table or capitalization table is a record of who owns shares in the company. It shows how much equity each investor and founder holds and how ownership changes as new investors come in. Maintaining a clean and well-organized cap table is important because it affects future fundraising and decision-making. The case of Instagram shows how important it is for founders to understand investor language. Systrom and Krieger were able to secure funding before launch because they knew how to communicate their vision, highlight their market potential, and show that they were financially prepared. They understood key investor terms and used them to negotiate a deal that allowed them to build Instagram into the billion-dollar company it is today. For any entrepreneur seeking investment, learning the language of investors and mastering key financial concepts is essential. It helps build credibility, makes negotiations smoother, and increases the chances of securing funding to grow the business. Talking to customers is one of the most important skills for any startup founder. A great product is useless if people do not understand what it does or why they need it. Many entrepreneurs make the mistake of using complex words, technical jargon, or industry-specific terms when explaining their product. While this might impress experts, it often confuses the average customer. The best way to communicate with customers is to use simple, clear, and relatable language. A good product explanation should answer 3 basic questions. What does it do? How does it help? And why should someone care? If customers do not understand these points right away, they are unlikely to buy, use, or recommend the product. The best startups focus on making their message as clear and straightforward as possible, ensuring that anyone, even those unfamiliar with the industry, can grasp the idea quickly. One of the simplest and most effective ways to test if a product explanation is clear enough is to use the grandma test. This means explaining the product in a way that an elderly person with no knowledge of technology or business can easily understand. If a founder can describe their product to their grandmother without needing to simplify it further, they are on the right track. If the explanation still sounds confusing, it means the message needs to be refined. The goal is not to oversimplify, but to remove unnecessary complexity so that the value of the product is immediately clear. For example, instead of saying a product uses artificial intelligence to automate data analysis, a founder could say it helps businesses quickly find important information without spending hours sorting through files. This method helps ensure that the message is accessible to a broad audience, making it easier to attract customers and generate interest. Apple is one of the best examples of how using simple language can win customers. Apple's marketing has always focused on clarity and ease of understanding. When Apple launched the iPod, they did not describe it as a device with a 5 GB hard drive capable of storing MP3 files. Instead, they simply said it was 1,000 songs in your pocket. This short and clear message instantly communicated the value of the product in a way anyone could understand. Instead of focusing on technical details, Apple focused on how the product improved the customer's life. The same approach was used when they introduced the iPhone. Instead of talking about processing power or software specifications, they called it a revolutionary phone, music player, and internet device in one. This messaging made Apple's products feel easy to use and approachable, which helped them build a massive customer base. Many successful startups follow a similar strategy by focusing on the benefits of their product rather than its technical features. A great way to explain a product to customers is to use simple comparisons or familiar examples. Many successful startups describe their products by relating them to something people already know. For example, when Airbnb started, instead of explaining the complexities of its platform, the founders simply said it was like a hotel, but with homes instead of rooms. This made it easy for customers to understand the concept without needing a long explanation. Another example is Netflix, which could have described itself as an online streaming service using cloud-based video hosting, but instead, it positioned itself as a way to watch movies and shows anytime without going to a video store. These simple and clear explanations help customers quickly see why a product is valuable, which increases their interest and trust. The language of value is all about making sure customers immediately see how a product makes their life easier, better, or more enjoyable. People do not want to struggle to understand what a product does or why they should care about it. The best way to communicate this value is by keeping explanations short, avoiding unnecessary complexity, and focusing on the benefits rather than just features. Startups that succeed in talking to customers in a simple and clear way have a much better chance of growing their user base and building a strong brand. When customers instantly understand how a product fits into their lives, they are more likely to try it, share it, and stay loyal to it. Storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to sell a product because people connect with stories more than they do with technical details or numbers. A great story makes a product feel more personal, relatable, and valuable. Many startups make the mistake of focusing too much on features when talking to customers, listing things like speed, size, or technology. While these details are important, they do not create an emotional connection. Customers do not buy products just because of what they can do. They buy them because of how they improve their lives. This is why the best companies focus on turning features into benefits. A feature is what a product does, while a benefit is how that feature helps the customer. Instead of saying a smartphone has a high-resolution camera, a company might say it helps capture memories in stunning detail. Instead of saying a laptop has a powerful processor, they might say it allows users to work faster without frustration. Shifting the focus from features to benefits helps customers see why the product matters to them. Tesla is a great example of a company that mastered storytelling to sell its cars. When Tesla introduced electric cars, many people saw them as slow, boring, and impractical. Other electric car companies focused on the technical details, explaining battery life, charging times, and energy efficiency. Tesla took a completely different approach. Instead of just talking about features, they told a story about the future. They presented their cars as more than just vehicles. They were a revolution in transportation. Tesla positioned electric cars as the next step in human progress, a way to reduce pollution while still driving a high-performance vehicle. They did not just say their cars had fast acceleration. They described the thrill of going from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just a few seconds. They did not just say their cars had a long battery life. They told a story about a world where people could drive without relying on gasoline, breaking free from expensive fuel costs. This storytelling approach made Tesla stand out and changed the way people thought about electric cars. Elon Musk, Tesla's founder, has used storytelling in almost every major product launch. When unveiling new Tesla models, he does not simply read a list of technical features. He paints a picture of a future where driving is safer, cleaner, and more exciting. When Tesla introduced its autopilot feature, the company did not just say it used advanced sensors and artificial intelligence. Instead, they told a story about a future where people could sit back, relax, and let their car handle the stress of traffic. This made people excited about the product, even if they did not fully understand the technology behind it. By focusing on the bigger picture, Tesla made electric cars desirable, not just practical. Other successful companies have used similar storytelling techniques. Apple has always been known for turning features into benefits. When they launched the MacBook Air, they did not just say it was thin and lightweight. They famously demonstrated it by pulling the laptop out of a manila envelope, showing customers that it was so slim it could fit into any bag. This visual storytelling made the product instantly appealing. Instead of talking about technical storage space, Apple tells customers they can keep all their favorite memories in one place. Instead of talking about megapixels, they tell customers they can capture life's moments in perfect detail. This approach makes technology feel more personal and meaningful. Startups can learn from these examples by focusing on why their product matters instead of just what it does. Every great product solves a problem, improves life in some way, or makes something easier. Instead of just listing features, founders should ask themselves how their product makes people's lives better. They should then build a story around that. If a company is selling fitness equipment, the story is not about weights and resistance bands. It is about helping people feel healthier and more confident. If a company is selling project management software, the story is not about task lists and automation. It is about reducing stress and helping teams work better together. When customers hear a great story, they do not just understand the product. They feel emotionally connected to it. This emotional connection makes people more likely to buy, recommend, and stay loyal to a brand. Storytelling is not just a marketing trick. It is a fundamental way to create lasting customer relationships. People remember stories more than they remember facts, and they trust companies that make them feel inspired and understood. The most successful startups use storytelling to highlight the benefits of their products in a way that resonates with customers. Whether it is Tesla making electric cars feel like the future, Apple making technology feel personal, or a small startup making everyday tasks easier, the right story can turn a product from something people need into something they love. Handling customer objections is a crucial skill for any startup founder or business owner. No matter how great a product is, customers will always have concerns before making a purchase. Some might feel the price is too high, others might worry about the product's limitations, and some may compare it to competitors and question why they should choose it. The way a startup responds to these objections can make the difference between losing a potential customer and turning them into a loyal one. Confidently addressing concerns builds trust, shows expertise, and reassures customers that they are making the right decision. The key is to listen carefully, acknowledge the concern, and respond in a way that highlights the value of the product without being defensive. One of the most common objections customers have is about price. Many people hesitate to buy a product or service if they feel it costs too much. Instead of immediately lowering the price or offering a discount, a better approach is to focus on the value the product provides. Customers are willing to pay more if they believe they are getting something worthwhile in return. The best way to handle this objection is to explain why the price is justified. If a product saves time, improves efficiency, or lasts longer than cheaper alternatives, these points should be emphasized. For example, when Apple sells its MacBooks, it does not compete on price. Instead, it highlights the high-quality materials, long battery life, and superior performance, making customers feel the higher price is worth it. Startups should also compare their product to the cost of not using it. A software company, for example, might explain that while their service costs $50 a month, it can save businesses hundreds of hours of work, making it a smart investment in the long run. If a startup truly understands its audience, it can frame the cost as a benefit rather than a drawback. Another common objection is about product limitations. Customers may worry that a product does not have enough features or that it will not meet all their needs. Instead of ignoring these concerns, the best approach is to be honest and show how the product still provides value despite any limitations. Many successful companies launch with a simple version of their product and improve it over time. When Instagram first started, it had very few features compared to other photo apps, but it focused on doing one thing exceptionally well, making photo sharing easy and beautiful. Instead of apologizing for missing features, startups should highlight what the product does best and how it solves a specific problem better than anything else. If a feature is missing but will be added in the future, letting customers know about upcoming improvements can reassure them. If a product lacks certain functions but still provides strong results, sharing customer testimonials or case studies can help prove its effectiveness. Competitor comparisons are another challenge startups frequently face. Customers often ask why they should choose one product over another, especially if there are bigger or more well-known competitors in the market. The worst mistake a startup can make is to badmouth competitors or focus too much on what others are doing. Instead, the best approach is to highlight what makes the startup's product unique. This could be a better user experience, superior customer service, more flexible pricing, or a specific feature that solves a problem in a new way. When Tesla entered the car market, it faced competition from every major automobile brand. But instead of trying to beat them at their own game, it positioned itself as something different, a high-performance electric car that combined sustainability with cutting-edge technology. Startups should clearly communicate what sets them apart without attacking competitors directly. If a customer mentions that another company offers a similar product at a lower price, a good response is to explain why the startup's product provides better value rather than just defending the cost. Handling customer objections with confidence is about understanding concerns, responding with clarity, and reinforcing the value of the product. Customers want to feel heard, and they appreciate honest and thoughtful responses. A startup that can turn objections into opportunities to highlight strengths will build stronger relationships with customers and increase sales. Instead of seeing objections as obstacles, successful entrepreneurs view them as chances to educate and persuade. Every concern is an opportunity to show why a product is worth choosing, and the best way to do this is with confidence, transparency, and a focus on real value. Talking to co-founders and team members is one of the most important aspects of running a successful startup. A great idea alone is not enough to build a company. It takes a strong and motivated team working toward a shared goal. The way a founder communicates their vision can make the difference between a team that feels inspired and one that feels lost. Clear communication ensures that everyone understands the bigger picture, their role in the company, and why their work matters. When people feel connected to a vision, they are more likely to stay motivated, work through challenges, and contribute their best efforts. Many startups struggle because team members are not on the same page about what they are building or why it is important. This can lead to confusion, frustration, and a lack of direction. Successful founders know how to clearly explain their vision in a way that excites and aligns the team. A shared mission is one of the most powerful ways to keep a team motivated. Startups often face setbacks, whether it is funding issues, product failures, or tough competition. When a team believes in a mission, They are more likely to push through difficult times instead of giving up. A strong mission gives meaning to the work beyond just making money. It creates a sense of purpose that drives people to go the extra mile. This is why some of the most successful startups have clear and inspiring missions. For example, Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This simple yet powerful statement helps employees stay focused on why their work matters. Similarly, Airbnb's mission is to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere. This mission is not just about booking homes, it is about making travel more personal and inclusive. When a startup has a mission that people believe in, it becomes easier to attract and retain passionate team members who are excited about the journey. One of the best examples of a founder who kept his team focused during tough times is Brian Chesky, the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb. In the early days of Airbnb, the company struggled to gain traction. Investors were skeptical about the idea of people renting out their homes to strangers. The company also faced financial challenges and was running out of money. Many startups in this situation would have collapsed, but Chesky kept his team motivated by constantly reinforcing the company's vision. He reminded them that they were not just building a website for booking rooms, but were changing the way people traveled and experienced new places. He used storytelling to help his team see the bigger picture. He would share real stories of hosts and travelers whose lives had been improved because of Airbnb. By keeping the team connected to the mission, he helped them push through the tough times. Another moment that tested Airbnb's team was during the COVID-19 pandemic, when global travel came to a halt. The company lost a huge portion of its business almost overnight. Instead of panicking, Chesky communicated openly with his team, acknowledging the difficulties while reinforcing the long-term vision. He had to make tough decisions, including layoffs, but he handled them with transparency and care. He focused on rebuilding the company in a way that aligned with its mission. By clearly communicating the path forward, he kept the remaining team engaged and motivated, which helped Airbnb recover and eventually go public. For any startup, effective communication between founders and team members is essential. A clear vision helps people stay focused, especially when challenges arise. Founders should regularly share updates, successes, and challenges with their teams, making sure everyone understands how their work contributes to the bigger goal. When a team feels connected to a mission, they work with more passion and commitment. The best startup leaders know that great communication is not just about talking, but about inspiring, listening, and making sure everyone feels like they are part of something meaningful. Giving feedback is one of the most important skills a startup founder or leader needs to develop. A strong team is built on trust, and the way feedback is delivered can either boost motivation or completely discourage someone. In a fast-paced startup environment, people are constantly learning, experimenting, and improving. Mistakes will happen, and not every idea will work, but how these moments are handled determines whether a team grows stronger or starts losing confidence. Many founders make the mistake of being too harsh, focusing only on what went wrong without recognizing what was done well. Others avoid giving honest feedback because they do not want to hurt feelings, which can lead to bigger problems down the road. The key is to strike a balance between honesty and encouragement, making sure feedback leads to improvement rather than frustration. One of the most effective ways to give constructive feedback without killing motivation is the feedback sandwich method. This approach structures feedback in a way that makes it easier to receive. It starts with a positive comment, followed by constructive criticism, and ends with another positive comment. The goal is to make sure the person receiving feedback does not feel attacked, but instead understands what they did well and what can be improved. For example, if a team member delivers a marketing campaign that did not perform as expected, a leader could say that the creativity and design were excellent, but the messaging could be clearer to better connect with customers. Then they could end by saying they appreciate the effort and are confident that with some adjustments, the next campaign will be even better. This method helps keep morale high while still addressing areas that need improvement. When people feel recognized for their efforts, they are more open to making changes and learning from feedback rather than feeling discouraged. Another important part of giving feedback is encouraging innovation while maintaining structure. Startups thrive on new ideas, and team members should feel comfortable sharing their thoughts without fear of criticism. However, not every idea will be a good fit for the business, and some will need to be refined before they can work. Instead of immediately rejecting an idea that seems unrealistic, a better approach is to ask questions and guide the person toward a stronger solution. If a team member suggests a new feature for a product that may not be feasible, instead of saying it will not work, a leader could ask what problem the feature is solving and how it aligns with the company's goals. This keeps the conversation productive and encourages creative thinking. At the same time, it is important to maintain some level of structure so that innovation does not turn into chaos. A clear process for evaluating and testing ideas helps the team stay focused and work toward achievable goals without losing sight of the bigger picture. Giving feedback the right way is essential for keeping a startup team motivated and growing. People want to improve, but they also want to feel valued and supported. Leaders who use the feedback sandwich method ensure that criticism is balanced with encouragement, making it easier for team members to accept and act on it. Encouraging innovation while maintaining structure allows startups to stay creative while still being organized and efficient. A strong feedback culture helps build a team that is not afraid to take risks, learn from mistakes, and continuously improve, which is exactly what a startup needs to succeed. Handling co-founder conflicts is one of the most important skills an entrepreneur must develop, because disagreements are almost guaranteed in any startup. When two or more people start a business together, they bring different backgrounds, skills, and personalities to the table. In the early days, excitement and shared vision can make it seem like nothing will go wrong, but as the startup grows, pressures increase, and differences become more noticeable. Many co-founders fight over responsibilities, decision-making, company direction, or money. Some argue over how fast the company should grow, while others disagree on hiring, product features, or investor relations. If conflicts are not managed well, they can lead to frustration, slow progress, or even cause the startup to fail. The best founders understand that disagreements are normal, and instead of avoiding them, they learn how to resolve them in a way that strengthens the business rather than tearing it apart. One of the biggest reasons co-founders fight is the lack of clear roles and responsibilities. In the early stages of a startup, everyone does a little bit of everything. But as the company scales, having clearly defined roles becomes crucial. If two co-founders both want to make major product decisions, conflicts can arise when they disagree on direction. If one co-founder feels like they are working harder than the other, but getting the same equity share, resentment can build up. Another common cause of tension is differences in risk tolerance. Some founders want to take bold steps like raising large amounts of funding or expanding aggressively, while others prefer a more cautious approach. This can lead to arguments over strategy and long-term vision. Financial disagreements are also a frequent source of conflict. Some co-founders may want to reinvest profits into the company, while others may want to start paying themselves higher salaries. Without open and honest communication, these small issues can grow into major problems that threaten the company's survival. A great example of co-founders who navigated disagreements successfully is Jan Koum and Brian Acton, the founders of WhatsApp. They came from different backgrounds but shared a common goal of building a simple, secure messaging app. As WhatsApp grew, they faced tough decisions about monetization, product features, and company direction. One major disagreement they had was whether to introduce ads into the platform. Acton was strongly against the idea of showing ads to users, believing that it would ruin the experience and go against their vision of a private, user-friendly communication tool. Coombe, while also against ads, had to consider the company's financial future. Instead of letting this disagreement damage their partnership, they worked through it by exploring alternative ways to make money, such as a small annual subscription fee for users. This compromise kept both founders aligned with their core mission, while ensuring the company remained financially stable. Another major test of their partnership came when Facebook acquired WhatsApp for $19 billion in 2014. While the deal was a huge success, new tensions emerged over the future of the platform. Facebook wanted to integrate advertising and collect user data, which went against WhatsApp's original mission. This ultimately led to Acton leaving the company in protest. However, even in disagreement, he exited professionally and maintained respect for his co-founder. The WhatsApp story shows that even the most successful startups experience conflicts, but the key is how co-founders handle them. Coombe and Acton managed to grow WhatsApp into one of the most used messaging platforms in the world, while staying true to their vision as long as possible. The best way to handle co-founder conflicts is to set clear expectations early on. Defining roles, responsibilities, and decision-making processes from the beginning can prevent many common disagreements. It is also important to communicate openly and address small issues before they turn into bigger ones. Many successful co-founders schedule regular meetings to discuss concerns and ensure they are aligned on key decisions. Having a clear conflict resolution strategy, such as bringing in a neutral third party when necessary, can also help prevent conflicts from escalating. Ultimately, co-founder relationships are like any partnership. They require trust, respect, and a willingness to compromise. Startups that learn to manage conflicts professionally can turn disagreements into productive discussions that lead to better decisions and a stronger company. Talking to the press and public is a crucial skill for any startup. Public relations, or PR, is about shaping how people see your company. Good PR can help a startup gain credibility, attract customers, and build trust with investors. Many startups struggle to get media attention because they do not know how to present their story in a way that interests journalists. The key to getting media coverage is to understand what reporters are looking for. Journalists are not interested in promoting a company. They want newsworthy stories that their audience will find valuable. Startups that position their announcements as industry trends, unique innovations, or major milestones have a better chance of getting featured in the press. Instead of simply saying a company has launched, a better approach is to highlight how it is solving a real problem or disrupting an industry. A startup in the health tech space, for example, should not just say it developed a new fitness app. Instead, it should focus on how the app is using AI to personalize workouts, making fitness more accessible for people who struggle with traditional exercise routines. Framing a startup story in a way that makes it relevant to the media is the first step toward gaining press coverage. One of the most effective tools for getting media attention is a well-written press release. A press release is a short, formal announcement that provides journalists with key information about a company, product launch, or major event. A great press release follows a clear structure. It starts with a compelling headline that grabs attention, followed by a strong opening paragraph that summarizes the main news. The next section provides details, including quotes from company leaders that add credibility and emotion to the story. A press release should always answer the key questions: who, what, when, where, and why. It should also be kept short, ideally no more than one page, because journalists receive hundreds of press releases and do not have time to read lengthy documents. A startup launching a new product, for example, should focus on what makes the product different, why it matters, and how people can access it. Adding a clear call to action at the end, such as a link to more information or a media contact, increases the chances of getting a response. Once a press release is ready, the next step is pitching it to journalists. Sending mass emails to every reporter is not an effective strategy. Instead, startups should research journalists who cover their industry and personalize their emails. A good pitch email is short, direct, and engaging. It should start with a subject line that makes the journalist want to open it. The first sentence should immediately explain why the story is relevant to them. Instead of saying a startup is launching a new software, a better approach is to connect it to a larger trend, such as how remote work is changing the tech industry. Crisis communication is another essential part of PR. When something goes wrong, whether it is a product failure, negative reviews, or a legal issue, the way a startup responds can make or break its reputation. The worst thing a company can do in a crisis is stay silent or deny responsibility. Customers and the public expect transparency, and handling the situation with honesty and accountability is the best way to regain trust. The first step in crisis communication is acknowledging the issue. A startup should clearly state what happened, why it happened, and what they are doing to fix it. If customers are affected, offering a solution or compensation can help rebuild goodwill. A strong crisis response also includes consistent messaging across all platforms, including social media, company blogs, and press statements. Employees should be informed about what to say so that the company presents a united front. A well-known example of crisis communication is how Uber handled its PR disasters. Over the years, Uber has faced multiple controversies, including accusations of a toxic workplace culture, legal battles with governments, and customer safety concerns. In some cases, the company's initial response made things worse. When former CEO Travis Kalanick was caught in a heated argument with an Uber driver, the video went viral, damaging Uber's reputation. At first, the company tried to downplay the incident, but public pressure forced Kalanick to issue an apology. The real turning point came when Uber replaced Kalanick with Dara Khosrowshahi as CEO. Under new leadership, Uber took a more transparent approach to PR crises, admitting mistakes and committing to improving company culture and customer safety. The lesson from Uber's experience is that ignoring problems or responding defensively can lead to bigger PR disasters. Startups should always have a plan in place for handling negative press and focus on honesty, accountability, and clear communication when facing challenges. Good PR is not just about getting media attention, it is about shaping the way people perceive a startup. Whether launching a new product, reaching out to journalists, or handling a crisis, clear and thoughtful communication is key. Startups that learn how to tell their story in a compelling way and manage their public image effectively have a much better chance of building trust and long-term success. Building thought leadership is one of the most effective ways for a startup founder or business leader to gain credibility, attract opportunities, and position themselves as an expert in their industry. Thought leadership means being recognized as someone who has valuable insights, deep knowledge, and a unique perspective on important topics within a specific field. It is not just about having a great product or company, but about becoming a trusted voice that others look to for advice and guidance. Many of the most successful entrepreneurs, such as Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely, and Richard Branson, have built strong personal brands by consistently sharing their ideas and engaging with their audience. Thought leadership helps a startup gain visibility, build trust with potential customers and investors, and create opportunities for partnerships and media coverage. The best way to establish thought leadership is by regularly sharing valuable insights through platforms like LinkedIn and speaking at industry events where people are looking for experts to learn from. One of the easiest and most effective ways to start building thought leadership is by writing LinkedIn posts that attract attention. LinkedIn is a powerful platform for professionals, and many startup founders have used it to grow their influence. The key to writing engaging posts is to provide real value rather than just promoting a company or product. Posts that perform well on LinkedIn usually focus on sharing personal experiences, industry trends, practical advice, or lessons learned from challenges and successes. Founders can write about mistakes they have made and what they learned from them, insights on how their industry is evolving, or tips that can help others in similar positions. For example, a startup founder who recently secured funding could write about the most important lessons they learned while pitching to investors, offering advice to other entrepreneurs going through the same process. A good LinkedIn post should start with a strong hook that grabs attention, such as a surprising fact, a bold statement, or a relatable question. The post should then provide value by offering unique insights, and it should end with a call to action, such as asking readers to share their thoughts, comment with their own experiences, or ask questions. Consistency is also important. Writing regularly, even once a week, helps build an audience over time and keeps engagement high. Speaking at industry events is another powerful way to establish credibility and become a recognized thought leader. Events such as conferences, webinars, panel discussions, and startup meetups give founders the opportunity to share their expertise with a live audience. Being invited to speak at an event instantly increases credibility because it shows that the person is knowledgeable enough to be considered an expert. Many successful entrepreneurs started their thought leadership journey by participating in small events before moving on to bigger conferences. Speaking engagements allow founders to showcase their expertise, share real-world experiences, and network with other professionals in their field. A great way to get started is by applying to speak at local industry events, joining startup accelerator programs that offer speaking opportunities, or even hosting a free webinar on a topic relevant to their industry. Founders can also start by participating in panel discussions or Quanda sessions, which require less preparation than full presentations but still provide great visibility. A strong thought leadership strategy combines both online and offline efforts. Writing LinkedIn posts helps build a personal brand and reach a large audience, while speaking at events allows founders to connect with people directly and establish deeper relationships. Over time, thought leadership creates opportunities beyond just growing a startup. It opens doors for media coverage, invites to exclusive business networks, and even potential investment opportunities. People trust and follow those who consistently provide value, and the more a founder shares their knowledge, the more they become known as an authority in their field. Building thought leadership is not about self-promotion, but about offering insights that genuinely help others. By focusing on sharing valuable knowledge and engaging with the community, any startup founder can become a respected voice in their industry. Talking to partners and collaborators is an important skill for any startup founder. Strong partnerships can help a startup grow faster, reach more customers, and gain access to resources that would be difficult to build alone. However, forming a successful partnership requires more than just a handshake. It involves finding the right partners, negotiating terms that benefit both sides, and structuring a deal that creates long-term value. Many startups rush into partnerships without fully understanding what they need or what the other side expects, which can lead to conflicts or failed agreements. A well-planned partnership should be based on trust, clear communication, and mutual benefits. Startups that approach partnerships strategically can build strong alliances that help them scale and succeed. Finding the right partners is the first step in building a strong collaboration. A good partner should bring something valuable to the table, whether it is industry expertise, a strong customer base, technology, or funding. Not all partnerships are worth pursuing, and choosing the wrong partner can waste time and resources. Startups should look for companies or individuals whose goals align with their own. For example, a food delivery startup might benefit from partnering with a popular local restaurant chain to gain more customers. A tech startup developing an AI-powered customer service tool might look for partnerships with e-commerce platforms that need better customer support solutions. One of the best ways to find partners is through industry events, startup networking groups, and business accelerators. Founders should also research potential partners to understand their reputation, past collaborations, and business objectives. A strong partnership is built on trust, so it is important to work with companies that have a solid track record and similar values. Once the right partner is found, the next step is negotiating a deal that benefits both sides. The key to a successful negotiation is understanding what each party wants and finding common ground. A good partnership should create value for both sides rather than favoring one party over the other. Before entering negotiations, a startup should clearly define what it hopes to achieve from the partnership. This could be access to a new customer base, shared technology, marketing support, or financial investment. At the same time, founders should think about what they can offer in return. Many partnerships fail because one side takes more than they give, leading to dissatisfaction and conflict. A well-negotiated deal ensures that both partners see real benefits and are motivated to work together in the long run. During negotiations, it is important to be transparent about expectations, responsibilities, and goals. Open communication helps prevent misunderstandings and builds trust between partners. Structuring a partnership deal properly is just as important as negotiating it. A poorly structured deal can lead to confusion, unmet expectations, and legal issues. Every partnership should have a clear agreement that outlines the responsibilities of each party, the timeline for collaboration, and how profits, costs, or resources will be shared. If money is involved, the agreement should define how payments will be made and under what conditions. If the partnership involves sharing intellectual property or technology, it should include terms for protecting sensitive information. Many startups make the mistake of relying on verbal agreements, which can lead to disputes later. A written contract ensures that both sides understand their obligations and reduces the risk of conflict. It is also important to include an exit plan in case the partnership does not work out. A well-defined exit strategy helps both sides move on smoothly if the collaboration is no longer beneficial. Successful partnerships are built on trust, mutual benefit, and clear agreements. Startups that take the time to find the right partners, negotiate fair deals, and structure agreements properly can create strong collaborations that drive growth and innovation. Instead of rushing into partnerships for short-term gains, founders should focus on building long-term relationships that align with their business goals. A well-managed partnership can open doors to new markets, increase brand credibility, and provide valuable support that helps a startup succeed in a competitive industry. Getting big companies to take a startup seriously is a challenge that many founders face. Large corporations have established brands, big budgets, and strict processes, which can make it difficult for a small startup to get their attention. However, startups that approach these companies in the right way can create valuable partnerships that lead to growth and new opportunities. The key is to show that the startup offers something unique and valuable that the big company cannot easily create on its own. Startups need to prove that they are reliable, have a solid product, and can deliver results. Many large companies look for innovation from startups because they move faster and experiment with new ideas in ways that big corporations cannot. However, convincing them to work with a small business requires careful planning, persistence, and a strong understanding of what big companies look for in a partner. One of the best ways to gain the attention of a large company is to focus on solving a problem they care about. Startups that offer a solution to a challenge the big company is facing have a much higher chance of being taken seriously. This means researching the company, understanding their goals, and identifying areas where they may need support. For example, a startup developing AI-powered customer service tools could pitch their solution to an e-commerce giant looking to improve response times. Another important factor is credibility. Large companies are hesitant to work with unknown startups unless they have proof that their product works. Startups can build credibility by showcasing case studies, customer testimonials, and data that demonstrate success. Even if a startup does not yet have big clients, showing strong results with smaller businesses can help establish trust. Many small startups have successfully partnered with giants like Google and Facebook by positioning themselves as valuable innovators. One well-known example is the partnership between Instagram and Facebook before Instagram was acquired. When Instagram first launched, it focused on mobile photo sharing at a time when Facebook's mobile experience was weak. Instead of trying to build their own photo sharing platform from scratch, Facebook saw the value in Instagram's technology and audience, leading to a partnership and later a $1 billion acquisition. Another example is DeepMind, an artificial intelligence startup that caught the attention of Google. DeepMind's AI research was so advanced that Google decided to partner with them before eventually acquiring the company. These cases show that startups that offer something valuable, whether it is technology, market access, or innovation, can attract the interest of big companies. While partnering with a large company can bring huge benefits, startups must also be aware of red flags in business deals. One common risk is a deal that takes too much control away from the startup. Some large companies may try to dictate all the terms, limiting a startup's flexibility and independence. Founders should be cautious of agreements that give the bigger company exclusive rights to their technology or product without fair compensation. Another red flag is a long and complicated negotiation process with no clear commitment. Some corporations engage with startups out of curiosity, rather than a real interest in collaboration. If a company keeps delaying decisions or does not provide clear next steps, it may be wasting the startup's time. Another major risk is when a big company gathers information about a startup's product, but then decides to build a similar version themselves. Startups should always protect their intellectual property by having legal agreements in place before sharing sensitive details. Successfully working with big companies requires a balance between confidence and caution. Startups need to show they have something valuable to offer while also protecting their business interests. The best way to gain attention is by proving real value, demonstrating credibility, and presenting a clear case for collaboration. At the same time, founders should stay alert for unfair terms and ensure they are entering a deal that benefits both sides. With the right approach, small startups can secure partnerships that help them scale, gain exposure, and access resources that would otherwise be out of reach. Talking to yourself may seem like a strange concept, but for a startup founder, self-talk plays a huge role in success. The way a founder thinks, processes challenges, and speaks to themselves can directly impact their ability to pitch ideas, negotiate deals, and lead a team. A founder's mindset is often the difference between pushing forward or giving up when things get tough. Startups face constant uncertainty, and founders often deal with stress, self-doubt, and rejection. The words a founder tells themselves in these moments shape their confidence, decision-making, and overall resilience. Positive self-talk helps build a strong mindset, while negative self-talk can lead to hesitation and fear of failure. The most successful entrepreneurs understand that controlling their internal dialogue is just as important as external communication. Mindset affects every part of a founder's journey. When pitching to investors, confidence is key. Investors are not just looking at the business, they are looking at the person leading it. A founder who believes in their idea and speaks with conviction is more likely to gain support than one who sounds unsure. The same applies to negotiations. When discussing deals with partners, suppliers, or customers, A founder must project confidence even if they are still figuring things out. Leadership is also shaped by mindset. If a founder constantly doubts themselves, their team will pick up on that energy. But if they maintain a strong, determined attitude, it inspires those around them to stay motivated. Every startup faces challenges, but how a founder reacts to those challenges depends on their mental approach. Having a growth mindset, which means viewing failures as learning experiences rather than roadblocks, can make a huge difference in how a startup progresses. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, used a mental framework called regret minimization to push himself forward. When deciding whether to leave his stable job on Wall Street to start Amazon, he asked himself a simple question. If he looked back at his life when he was 80 years old, would he regret not taking the risk? The answer was yes, so he took the leap. This way of thinking helped him overcome fear and uncertainty. Instead of focusing on the risks in the short term, he thought about the long-term consequences of not trying. Many successful entrepreneurs use similar mental techniques to stay motivated. When faced with a big decision, founders can ask themselves whether they would rather take a risk and possibly fail, or play it safe, and always wonder what could have been. Shifting the focus from short-term fears to long-term vision helps founders take bold steps with more confidence. Rejection is an inevitable part of building a startup. No matter how great an idea is, not everyone will see the vision right away. Some of the biggest companies today faced multiple rejections before they found success. Airbnb's founders struggled to get investors to believe in their idea. They pitched to dozens of investors, and most of them turned them down, saying no one would want to stay in a stranger's home. But the founders believed in their vision and kept going. Uber also faced skepticism in its early days. Many people doubted whether customers would use an app to book rides instead of hailing taxis. WhatsApp was rejected by multiple venture capital firms before it grew into one of the most widely used messaging apps in the world. These stories prove that rejection does not mean failure. It simply means that the right opportunity has not arrived yet. The key is to learn from each rejection, refine the approach, and keep moving forward. Staying confident even when things feel uncertain is one of the biggest challenges for founders. Many entrepreneurs experience imposter syndrome, the feeling that they are not good enough or that they are just pretending to know what they are doing. The truth is, most founders feel this way at some point, but the difference is that successful ones push through it. A useful technique is to act as if confidence is already there. Speaking with certainty, maintaining strong body language, and focusing on what has already been achieved can help build real confidence over time. Preparation is another key factor. When a founder knows their business inside and out, they naturally feel more confident when pitching, negotiating, or leading. Surrounding oneself with supportive mentors and advisors also helps. Having experienced people to turn to for advice makes the journey feel less overwhelming. A founder's self-talk and mindset influence every decision, interaction, and challenge they face. Staying positive, focusing on long-term goals, and handling rejection with resilience are crucial for success. Founders who believe in themselves and their vision, even when others do not, are the ones who go on to build great companies. It is not about having all the answers from the start, but about having the mindset to keep pushing forward, learning, and adapting along the way. Startup communication is not just a skill you learn once and master overnight. It requires daily practice, continuous improvement, and real-world application. The best founders know that being able to talk about their startup clearly and confidently can open doors to funding, partnerships, and growth opportunities. Every conversation with an investor, customer, or business partner is a chance to refine messaging and build credibility. Practicing startup communication every day helps founders become more persuasive, handle tough questions with ease, and inspire confidence in their vision. The more a founder talks about their startup in different settings, the more natural and effective their communication becomes. One of the best ways to improve startup communication is by role-playing investor meetings. Practicing pitches in a realistic setting helps founders refine their message, anticipate difficult questions, and improve their delivery. This can be done with co-founders, mentors, or even in front of a mirror. The goal is to simulate real investor meetings as closely as possible. A founder should practice explaining their startup in 30 seconds, 5 minutes, and in a full-length pitch presentation. They should also prepare for tough investor questions, such as how they will acquire customers, how their business will scale, and what makes their startup different from competitors. Getting comfortable with these questions in a practice setting reduces nervousness and builds confidence for actual investor meetings. Joining pitch competitions is another powerful way to practice startup communication. Many successful entrepreneurs gained valuable experience by participating in startup competitions before pitching to real investors. Competitions provide a structured environment where founders can present their ideas, receive feedback, and improve their public speaking skills. They also offer exposure to potential investors, advisors, and customers. Well-known competitions such as Y Combinator's Demo Day, TechCrunch Disrupt, and Startup Weekend have helped many early-stage startups refine their pitches and gain funding. Even local startup events and university competitions can provide valuable practice. Winning is not the only goal. The real benefit comes from gaining experience, receiving feedback, and learning how to communicate more effectively under pressure. A helpful way to measure progress in startup communication is by using a checklist to see if a founder can talk about their startup, like a pro. A good self-assessment includes key questions such as whether the founder can explain their business in one sentence, whether they can clearly describe the problem they are solving, and whether they can confidently answer common investor questions. Other important points include whether they can tailor their message for different audiences, whether they can explain complex ideas in simple terms, and whether they can maintain confidence even when facing difficult questions. If a founder struggles with any of these areas, they know exactly what to focus on to improve. Practicing daily and seeking feedback from mentors, advisors, or fellow entrepreneurs helps refine these skills over time. Successful entrepreneurs often emphasize the importance of strong communication. Many of the most well-known founders struggled with pitching and public speaking early in their careers, but improved through practice. Steve Jobs, widely recognized as one of the greatest business presenters of all time, was not always a natural speaker. He spent countless hours rehearsing before Apple product launches to ensure his message was clear and engaging. Elon Musk has admitted that he was not a strong public speaker in his early days, but over time, he developed a unique and compelling way of communicating his vision. Many startup founders have faced rejection and initial failures before mastering how to communicate effectively. The key takeaway from their experiences is that startup communication is a skill that can be learned and improved with consistent effort. Putting everything together, the most successful founders practice startup communication daily, prepare for investor meetings through role-playing, gain experience by joining pitch competitions, and continuously assess their ability to explain their business clearly. They understand that confidence comes from preparation and experience. Founders who make communication a priority will be better equipped to attract investors, convince customers, and build strong business relationships. Every conversation is an opportunity to improve, and those who commit to mastering this skill set themselves apart in the competitive startup world.